Hey there, welcome back to another deep dive. And today we're going to be looking at the world of freelance technology trainers in India.
That's right.
But we're not going to be looking at articles or research studies.
Right.
We are going straight to the source.
Yeah.
Real conversations from a Telegram group
That's
where
right.
these trainers connect.
It's like a backstage pass.
Yeah.
You get to see what it's really like to do this work.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. And this isn't just like a place to go and vent and, let out your frustrations.
Right.
This group is about action and making things better.
Absolutely.
And it was started by Vishal Shah,
Yes.
who is a Mumbai-based Microsoft certified trainer specializing in Excel VBA and Power BI.
That's right. He's a fascinating figure.
Yeah, and he saw the need for trainers to kind of have each other's backs,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to things like getting paid on time
Yes.
and setting fair rates.
Absolutely. And you can tell just by looking at some of the early conversations in the group. So late 2018 is when this group started getting going. And a lot of the conversations you see in those early days are people trying to figure out who the good vendors are.
Right.
So you see posts like, has anyone worked with this company? Are they good with payments?
Okay, so it was like a crowdsourced reputation system
Absolutely.
for these vendors, which makes sense.
Absolutely.
If you're a freelancer,
Yeah,
your livelihood depends on these vendors being reliable and trustworthy.
absolutely.
So knowing who to trust
Yeah.
is huge.
Yeah. And it wasn't too long before payment issues started to really emerge as a recurring theme.
Okay.
You see people sharing stories about delays, non-payments, even disputes over things like travel reimbursements.
Wow. So right away, this group is revealing some of the less glamorous sides
Yeah.
of freelance tech training.
For sure.
I was looking at this one dispute with this vendor
Mm.
over travel reimbursement,
Yeah.
and it wasn't about a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
It was really the principle of the thing
Right.
that really got to this group, and I thought that was so interesting.
That's a great example of how you see this community really come together and support each other.
Yes.
It wasn't just sympathy. It was, they were actually analyzing the situation,
Yeah.
dissecting the contract, giving advice on how to handle things.
It was like a masterclass
And
in self-advocacy.
Yes, a masterclass in self-advocacy. And you can see this even more explicitly in June 2019,
Okay.
when they actually create a Google form specifically to document non-paying or delayed vendors.
Okay, so now they're taking things to the next level.
Yeah.
It's not just chatting on Telegram. Now it's like
It's organized.
building a resource, a database almost.
Yeah.
Did that create any tension within the group,
Yes.
publicly calling out these vendors like that?
There were definitely some members who were a little bit apprehensive. They were worried about the potential backlash or whether it was fair to name names.
Sure.
So it really shows that they weren't just blindly charging ahead. They were really thinking through the ethics of their actions.
Yeah, it makes you realize that there's a lot of nuance to running a community like this.
Yeah.
You've got to balance the needs of the individual
Right.
with the greater good of the group.
Absolutely.
But that debate also shows that they weren't afraid to tackle the tough questions.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes this group so fascinating and valuable. They
Yeah.
weren't afraid to challenge each other's assumptions,
Yeah.
to really kind of push for better practices and really think critically about the work they were doing.
As I'm listening to this, I'm thinking to myself, wow, I wish I had a group like this that I could turn to, to
Yeah.
talk through things with other people who really understand the challenges of freelancing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people crave that sense of belonging and
Yeah.
shared experience. And, freelancing can be a very isolating world at times.
Absolutely. And it's not just about finding support when things go wrong.
Right.
This group also celebrates the wins,
That's right.
shares advice on things like setting rates, and keeps each other updated on industry trends.
Yeah. One conversation that I found really fascinating is they were debating whether it was ethical to accept very low training fees
Yep.
just to get work.
Right.
Some felt like it undercut the whole profession,
Yeah.
while others said, look, this is a competitive market. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do
Right.
just to get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
So it was a very, it was a nuanced conversation. It wasn't black and white.
Right.
And I think it really got them thinking about the big picture.
Those kinds of conversations are gold. They
Mhm.
force you to examine your own values,
Yeah.
how your actions affect others.
And it speaks to this broader question
Does
of
it?
how freelance workers can advocate for themselves
Yes.
and create a more sustainable and ethical industry.
Yes. Okay, so we've seen how this group is tackling vendor issues,
Yeah. Yeah.
getting those crucial conversations going.
Right.
But what about the impact of COVID-19?
Yeah.
Surely that must have just shaken things up for everybody.
Absolutely. COVID was a huge disruption. There's no doubt about it. Suddenly you have everyone scrambling to adapt to online training,
Yeah.
dealing with cancellations,
Yeah.
and facing even more pressure from vendors to lower their rates.
It sounds like it really amplified the challenges that freelance trainers were already facing.
For sure. For sure.
So did the group's response change at all during this time?
You know, it's interesting. At first, there was a lot of fear
Yeah.
and uncertainty. People were sharing their experiences, trying to figure out how to navigate this new landscape.
Yeah.
But what's really remarkable is that the group never lost sight of its core values:
Okay.
transparency, support, and advocating for fair treatment.
So even in a crisis, they stuck to their principles.
Absolutely.
That's really impressive.
Yeah, and they weren't just talking about their feelings, they were
Right.
sharing practical tips as well, like
Right.
how to set up a home studio,
Yeah.
which online platforms work best, how to engage students remotely.
So it became this hub of knowledge and resourcefulness.
Absolutely.
Oh.
It was incredible to see.
That's what I love about this group.
Yeah.
It's not just about complaining. It's about finding solutions,
Right.
helping each other through tough times.
Absolutely. And as things started to settle into a new normal,
Okay.
they really started to dig deeper into the power dynamics at play in the industry.
Okay.
And there was a growing awareness that some vendors were using the pandemic as an excuse
Oh,
to exploit trainers even more.
wow. So they weren't just reacting to the immediate crisis. They were really looking at this as an opportunity to push for systemic change.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we see this reflected in the kinds of stories that people are sharing in the group.
Right.
One trainer posted about being subjected to verbal abuse by a vendor,
Oh, wow.
and the group's response was incredible.
Yeah.
They rallied around him, offered support advice on how to report the incident,
Right.
and even discussed ways to hold that vendor accountable.
Wow.
It's amazing how they turned a personal experience into a broader conversation about respect and creating a safe working environment.
Yeah. And it makes you realize this isn't just about money. It's about dignity. It's about basic human rights.
Absolutely. And that's a powerful message,
Yeah.
especially in a field where freelancers often feel isolated and powerless.
Yes.
This group is showing that collective action
Yeah.
can make a real difference.
Absolutely.
One thing that keeps coming up in my mind is Vishal Shah,
Yes.
the founder.
Yeah.
We've talked about his expertise and how he started the group,
Right.
but what kind of presence does he have in these day-to-day conversations that are happening?
He's definitely a guiding force in this community.
Okay.
He's always there to offer advice, share resources, remind people of their rights. He even weighs in on some of those ethical debates
Right.
and kind of helps the group navigate those gray areas.
It's like he's the mentor everyone wishes they had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Someone who's been there, done that, and is really willing to share their wisdom.
Absolutely. And it's not just about telling people what to do. It's
Okay.
about fostering critical thinking.
Yes.
Encouraging people to question assumptions, to think about the long-term consequences of their actions,
Yeah.
to really take ownership of their careers.
I can see why this group has been so successful.
Yeah.
It's not just about providing information.
Right.
It's about empowering people to make informed decisions
Absolutely.
and advocate for themselves.
And it's about creating a sense of community,
Yes.
a space where people feel safe to be vulnerable, to share their struggles, and to celebrate their successes.
I bet a lot of listeners are thinking right now, I wish I had a group like this.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. It's such a fundamental human need
Yes.
to connect with others who understand your challenges and aspirations.
It makes you wonder, why aren't there more groups like this out there?
That's a good question. I think it's a combination of factors.
Yeah.
You've got Vishal's leadership,
Right.
which is clearly very impactful.
Yeah.
You've got this strong shared purpose, this desire to make the industry better for everyone. And you've got this willingness to engage in open and honest dialogue, even when it's uncomfortable.
It sounds like a recipe for success,
Yeah.
not just for a Telegram group, but for any community that really wants to make positive change.
I agree.
Speaking of incredible things, we haven't even touched on the practical advice
Yeah.
and the resources that are being shared in this group,
Yeah.
from negotiating rates to finding clients on LinkedIn. It sounds like a gold mine of information.
It really is. And that's what we're going to be diving into in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We're going to explore the specific strategies that this group has developed to help freelance trainers thrive.
Sounds like essential listening for anyone who's ever felt undervalued or exploited in their work.
Absolutely.
But even more than that, I think it's a story of hope,
yes.
a reminder that we have the power to create the kind of work environments we want to see in the world.
Absolutely.
So join us for part 2 of our deep dive into the world of freelance technology trainers in India.
We'll see you there.
Hey there, welcome back to another deep dive. And